Hi everyone! Today I'll be teaching you how to make the perfect pair of leggings that are made to measure to fit your body. Everyone has different body proportions, and ready-to-wear clothes and even sewing patterns don't match all of our body shapes. So I'll be showing you how to use your own measurements to draft the pattern. But don't be too nervous about pattern drafting. I promise you this one is really not that hard. The video will be divided into 4 parts. First, I'll help you figure out the right type of fabric for your leggings. Then, I'll help you take your measurements the right way and draft a pattern according to your body shape. And to finish it off, I'll show you the step-by-step tutorial on how to sew them. You don't even need a serger for that. I'll be using my regular sewing machine. And as always, my DMs are open for any questions you might have. However, if pattern making is not something that interests you, and you would rather buy the PDF pattern, I did make one for you guys. It comes from extra small to extra large, and you can find the link in the description down below. The video also has chapters showing you when each part starts, so you can jump to the sewing part of the video if you want. Now let's get to it. There are so many different fabrics on the market, but for workout clothes, you need to find the right one. I'll leave some resources in the description if you want to check them out. But you should buy fabric with a high elasticity to make it possible for you to move around and sturdy enough to keep you supported. Fabrics made out of polyester and polyamide are the best choices for a workout legging. But make sure they also have a high percentage of elastane. This dark blue one is a visco lycra. It's okay to use this one for crop tops if you don't need a lot of support, but it becomes transparent when stretched too much, which would be a problem for leggings. I checked with the seller, and it's made out of 96% viscose and 4% elastane. Thicker fabric will prevent stretching that becomes see-through. The pink one is properly made for workout clothes. I also checked with the seller, and it's made out of 88% polyester and 12% elastane. It's thicker and stronger and will hold you better and give you more support. To know how much fabric stretches, I cut a square out of them. The measurements are 10 cm by 10 cm, which is around 4 by 4 inches. I'll stretch the fabric while on the grain line, which is the direction we will cut the pattern later on, and cross the grain line. Following the grain, it stretches all the way to 15 cm, but it would be too tight around my body if it was stretched like this. A more comfortable fit would be around 12 to 12.5 cm. Not all fabrics will stretch the same amount 4 ways. Some only stretches to the sides. However, if your fabric stretches vertically the same way it does horizontally, you need to reduce the vertical measurements later on as well. Always reduce accordingly to the stretch. Since my fabric's comfortable stretch sits around 12.5 cm, that's 125% of 10 cm. Each centimeter equals 10% of stretch, so I'll reduce 25% on all of my measurements when drafting the pattern. Don't get scared, we can do all of that on a calculator. Now let's go for part 2, taking your measurements. You will need to know how wide your waist is, how wide your hips are, your hip line, which is the vertical distance between your waist and your hips, the girth of your ankles and knees, your crotch depth, and also the vertical distances between your waist and your knees, and your waist and your ankles. Take notes of all of those measurements and open your calculator app. As I said, the stretch of my fabric is 125% horizontally and vertically, so I'll take 25% off of all of those measurements to get the right number for the high elasticity pattern. If I use the total measurements that I got, it will get too loose on me because my fabric stretches a lot. So to take 25% out of a number, you can just multiply it by 0.75. That's what I'm doing here. And those are all of my reduced measurements. Now let's get to pattern drafting. This might seem scary at first, but I promise you it really isn't. You will need a big piece of paper for this. You can glue sheets of paper together if you don't have a big one. I'll start tracing only the top part of the pattern because the legs are really long and it will be out of frame. Trace a vertical line with a ruler. This mark is our waist. Downwards, mark the waistline. That's the vertical distance between your waist and your hips. Then, mark the crotch depth. To the right, draw the waistline. then the hip line, and the crotch line. Take your hips measurement, divide it by 4, and mark it at the waistline. Mark the same thing to the hip line and the crotch line. At the waistline, mark 2 cm inwards, that's around 1 inch. For the front crotch measurement, divide your hips by 20 and add it to the crotch line. I am lowering 2.5 cm or 1 inch here, connecting it to the waist, and I'm curving all the way to the edge. For the back, it's almost the same thing. The difference is the crotch depth. Instead of dividing your hips by 20, divide it by 8 and add it to the crotch line. Lower 2 cm and connect it with a curve. And add 3 cm here, a bit more than 1 inch, and connect the lines. Now I'm adding more paper here to trace the rest of the length. I drew a straight line all the way down. Now I'm marking the distance between the waist to the knees and the ankles, and marking the knee girth and the ankles girth. Now I'm connecting the ankles and the knees with a straight line, and using a curved line to connect the crotch to the knee. I'm measuring the distance between the front crotch to the knee line and marking it down at the back crotch. They need to have the same length. Now I'm tracing the back. Cut the paper. I personally prefer leggings with a lined waistband because it gives more support. I am using 9 cm for my waistband width. You can make it thicker or thinner if you prefer. So I'm cutting 9 cm off the top and making the waistband using a separate piece of paper. It's a rectangle. Measure the top of the leggings and reduce 1 cm. My rectangle will be 33 by 18 cm. I am doubling the width I want because it will be folded afterwards. Since I want my waist to be more snatched, I'm making it smaller at the top so it doesn't fall off. Follow the anatomy of your body. And you're done! Now let's sew the leggings. First you need to cut the pattern pieces. Fold the fabric in half, keeping the right side of the fabric on the inside, and place the pattern pieces. Cut 2 of each. Start by sewing it around the crotch. You don't need a serger for this project, but you need a machine that has at least a zigzag stitch. All of the blue stitches are stretch stitches, but if you don't have those options, you can use a zigzag stitch. It's really necessary to test your stitching in a piece of fabric before sewing directly onto the cut pieces. Sew a testing scrap and stretch the fabric. If the stitch doesn't rip, you're good to go. If it rips, try again with a larger stitch length or width. My favorite stitch to use is this one that looks like a stray stitch. Now open the legs, pin them together as I'm showing in the video, and sew. Match and pin the seam in the middle first. Now you need to sew the waistband at the sides. Fold it in half as I'm showing in the video, keeping the seams inside. Pin it in place to help you. Now, waistband to the top of the leggings. Turn the leggings right sides out. Fold it in half as I'm doing and cut a small piece of fabric, or mark it with a safety pin. Those marks are gonna help you pin the waistband to the leggings. Now match those marks and pin it in place. If you prefer, you can also sew the waistband together before attaching to the leggings so it doesn't move around too much. Now attach the waistband to the leggings. Make sure to align all 3 layers correctly. Now you need to hem the bottom. And you're done! I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If it was helpful to you, don't forget to click on the like button. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, subscribe! I post new sewing tutorials every week. Next week I'll show you how